Welcome to Sorry If I Spit When I Speak. Today we're going to be talking about the Bengals' moves in free agency. Now, I have a very special guest today. I'm talking about Mark Herman, who is known to all of you as LA Bengal fan. He has very active presence on Twitter, and he is the Bengals representative on AFC Northerners. Now, Mark has a very interesting history in terms of his Bengals fandom. I mean, those of you who are parents, you can learn, you can teach your kids discipline and perseverance and patience by just the model set by Mark. He has been a Bengals fan since their inception, and really interesting story. I want you to tell them your story, but basically, so his he was born in Texas. His dad was a Packers fan who went to all the games in Milwaukee and didn't want his son to be fair weather fan. So Mark moves to LA when he's 1 year old, and he becomes a fan of the Bengals immediately when they are founded. When he's only 5 years old, and he loved the logo, he loved the helmet, he loved the fact that he could pronounce as a 5 year old the starting quarterback name, Greg Cook. And I mean, just tell them the story, please, Mark. A great story.
Yeah, no. So my parents actually met. Their first date was a Ram Packer game at the Coliseum, and so when they met, my dad brought me up to not be a fair weather fan. He was here in Los Angeles, huge Packer fan, and I used to watch football games with him. I watched Monday Night Football from the very beginning, and he just brought me up that if you have a team, you stick with that team and you don't jump ship. And in '68, I was 5 years old, and the Bengals came out, and yeah, like you said, that I saw the Greg Cook card. And I could pronounce his name. I loved the logo, and I said, I'm going to like these guys from the beginning. So even though I've never even been to Cincinnati, I've been a Bengal fan my whole life, and just been intimately involved with them and followed them, and they've been my team, and I can't jump ship. They are my team. That's it. That's how I was raised.
Yeah. I mean, really, I really respect that. I am also in Los Angeles. We haven't met in person, but we really should.
Oh, we're
Uh,
going to. We're going to be. I didn't know you were in Los Angeles, and I've been watching your show for a while, and I'm really looking forward. You and I are going to take in more than one game this season. So,
oh yeah,
yeah,
oh yeah.
definitely.
So I moved out to Los Angeles in the mid '90s. Had been a Bengals fan for a while, and I come out here, and the internet is just starting, but obviously it was very expensive and slow. I didn't have internet. You talked about how hard it was to get Bengals news. I only was able to get Bengals news. There was a sporting news. I remember they had these little tiny
Yeah,
little information weekly, and also I remember. Because the team wasn't good, so they weren't on the highlight shows. But there was this newspaper that I subscribed to. It's very expensive. I want to say like $5 a month, maybe $10 a month. It's outrageous. As a Bengals newspaper, and it would arrive like a week or 10 days after the events it was describing, and it was so sad. But I was just so happy to get those newspapers, and that really is why we started this show and all this stuff. Is because I want something, Bengals coverage the way I would have appreciated, in the '90s and all that. So me and Mark, we have a lot in common. We are both really, I mean, diehard fans through thick and thin.
yeah.
Now, yeah, and a lot of um, Bengals fans are confused, Mark. They are confused by our moves in free agency. And we talked a little bit before the show, and you really have a good analysis of this. So I want to go through some of the signings, and you can kind of tell us what you think. CJ
Perfect.
Uzama, yeah, CJ Uzama, everybody agrees was a solid signing.
Oh,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely. And he's just getting better every year. So I think that was money very well spent. And it also addresses, we know we wouldn't have had a tight end on the roster if we didn't sign him. Now, sticking with the tight end, I would also like to see us on a team friendly deal, keep Eifert, because I think he wants to prove something to us. And I think he's talented if he can stay on the field. It's like Herm Edwards always says, the most important ability is availability, and he hasn't been available. But I would like to go into the season with possibly a draft pick, Eifert, and obviously CJ. So
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I like the signing. He's big. He's athletic. Like you said, he's available. He's a tough guy. He has a great personality. You know, I mean, you can't that he has a winning personal mentality. He's very likable. You know, I remember he's very close with Gio. You just like the guy. He's so athletic. You know, John Sheeran, who's normally on the show, but he's on a cruise right now. And that is thank you to our patrons. We have patreon.com. John, his Patreon money, he wanted to use it immediately and show his gratitude. He's enjoying himself, and that's fine. Yeah, so thank you. We're going to get to thanking all the patrons pretty soon. But John was saying that Uzama's athletic ability has not been, it is untapped because of the coaching, because of the offensive coaching we've had. And we are going to see that unleashed under the Zach Taylor coaching regime. He didn't exactly say it like that, but yeah, I think, yeah, go ahead, please.
I agree. We haven't seen the ceiling on him yet. He's young, and what he's done is he's shown us more every single year, and that's why he deserved that contract. He's a good keep. He's a really good keep.
Yeah, he is, and I'm sorry here, and so we all agree that was a good signing.
Yes.
Nobody really has a problem with that. I guess the problem they have is with two signings: Bobby Hart and Preston Brown. Right. Bobby Hart, the team, people, a lot of fans didn't even want us to bring him back because of his play. A lot of penalties, a lot of sacks given up. Now, from my perspective, I understand the Bengals, decades of following them. You know, it's hard to explain to people when we say that their business model is being cheap and whatnot. But they will sign players, but they like to sign veterans to bargain deals. They like having veterans that are getting paid half or a third of what the top veterans are getting. Okay. Yes. And they like to feel like they've addressed a need. So signing a veteran who's 24, they love value. So they love signing the younger player as opposed to the older player who they want to sign someone before he has his breakout season. That is a home run to this Bengals organization. When they signed DeLoco, when they signed Sean Williams, when they sign these guys before they've performed, it's because they are anticipating and hoping that they really hit a home run. And Bobby Hart seems to be like one of those, although it's more of a head scratcher. Mark, I want to get your take on Bobby Hart.
Well, you know what? We need big bodies for the line, for starters. And this team in free agency is not going to go out, and they're not going to pay like New England's lineman Brown the kind of money that Oakland paid him. They're not going to go out and sign a guy to a $10 or $12 million a year contract. So they got Hart on, and they gave him more than he probably deserved, but everything I'm reading says Turner really thinks he can fix him. He's got a connection with Florida State with the coach, and he says he's looked at every play on film, and he thinks he can fix him. Of all the poor linemen we have, and you can go down and look at Redmond and all the problems we had on the offensive line, Bobby Hart, if he can be corrected, if the coaches think that, he's young, and he plays with passion. He wants to improve. You know, we drafted Cedric Ogbuehi, and I don't think Cedric Ogbuehi wants to play football. I mean, there were plays where he got burned, and he didn't even turn around and help Andy Dalton up. This is a guy I don't want on the team because I don't think he wants to improve. I don't think he has a passion for the game. But if they see that with Bobby Hart and they think he's correctable, it's really not that bad a signing. Also, if you look at the details, Mike Florio on Pro Football Talk is very good at breaking down the contracts. You know, his background is being an attorney, so he does the best comprehensive breakdown of the contracts. We can get out of the Bobby Hart deal next year. We only have to keep him for 1 year, and I think he's only a $1 million cap hit in year 2. So it's kind of, we locked him up for 3 years. If he improves, we can have him play out his contract and extend him later. And if not, we can jump ship from him. But of all the pieces on the line that we needed to keep, he was probably the best piece to keep. If we had signed Alex Redmond to that contract, I would be that atomic bomb emoji with the head exploding. That's what I would be, because I hate Alex Redmond.
Well, we don't hate anybody, but yeah, we don't like his play. Yeah.
Yes. So.
Yeah. No, a lot of great points, to be honest with you. I really hope you're right. And yeah, I mean, Jim Turner just got a job, and this might be his last opportunity to coach in NFL if he
Yes.
fails. So if he's willing to take the chance, maybe we should too.
Well, and that's one of the things I want to say to everybody out there is people are freaking out. I mean, everybody's already conceding the division to the Browns. You know, how many times have we seen teams like Washington win the offseason, get all the great free agent signings, and then amount to nothing in the regular season? Now, I'm not saying the Browns aren't going to have a good year, but we don't need to crown them just yet. There's no Lombardi Trophy being awarded in May and March and April. So we need to kind of pump the brakes there. Also, the Bengals have never been big players in the first week of free agency, and they won't overspend on players. So we weren't in the running for C.J. Mosley. We will be in the running for other linebackers, but we're not going to pay that kind of money. So people just need to kind of sit back and not freak out so much. And
yeah, please go ahead.
And this kind of goes into the Preston Brown signing. And I'm going to talk about Bobby Hart and Preston Brown on two things. Both of these guys, I don't think were given a fair chance. Preston Brown was relatively healthy his whole career at Buffalo. He got hurt last year. And obviously when he came back, he didn't have Tez there or Vigil wasn't there. I mean, it was kind of the defense was already falling apart when he came back. In the first few weeks, he looked really good. I don't think we've given Preston Brown enough of a chance. So I didn't mind that extension. Signing him for another year. And the same thing for Bobby Hart. Would Bobby Hart be better if he had a better guard next to him? Then maybe he doesn't give up. You know, he had Alex Redmond, who we both agree was horrible. I mean, really, really was it inferior, one of the worst guards in the league. So would Bobby Hart's play have been elevated if he had a better guard next to him? So we'll see.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the fact that we're going to talk about that soon, but we upgraded that guard, like you said.
Yes,
that is big, and the fact that we know that Westerman can play, so that depth, I mean, maybe who knows? Maybe they are preparing him to take over for Bowling, which a lot of fans would be upset. We keep letting these talented veteran linemen go when we don't think their value, we don't value them as much because they're approaching 30 or whatever. But the fact that we have Westerman this year as depth, our guard position is very different, and that's a good point. I mean, that could really help the tackles. And Cordy Glenn should have a bounce back year. It's been a long time since his injury now.
Right.
He had a bounce back year. He was a big disappointment. I was disappointed.
Well, imagine this. We could have Glenn and our new guard, I think it's Miller. We could have them side by side. Just like the Buffalo did. We could have Trey Hopkins next to our new tackle that we pick up in the draft, and now you got Billy Price in the middle. You have Westerman as a backup. You have Hart coming in and spelling. Now all of a sudden you're looking at a whole revamped line, and people don't see that. They're freaking out because we didn't go out and get the number one tackle in free agency. We don't need to.
No, I mean these prices that we've been seeing. These price tags, these huge deals that are being handed out. You and I know that the Bengals are never going to pay those. They tried with Shaq Barrett, and they probably offered more money than the Bucs did. But like my friend again on the cruise, which he deserves. I mean, his mind is so full of these statistics and analysis and analytics that it needs a breather. But like John was saying. Shaq Barrett probably wants to take a chance on himself with a 1-year deal, and I respect that. That's fine. But they tried to get a guy that can help us, but we did land, like you said, the Bills guard, John Miller, who is a competent guard. Nobody can say he's a bad player. I was looking at the Pro Football Focus stats, and there's two stats that were tweeted out, one by Cincinnati's Pro Football Focus, and one by Lance McAllister, probably different data or probably different, minimum snaps or whatever that they were taking. But, he was about the 20th overall guard, pass blocking, 26th, not bad. And run blocking 31st, somewhere around there. Allowed about 5 penalties. Solid signing. The money wasn't too much. Very fair money.
Right. Well, the best part of it is it's a sign to the Bengal fans that Alex Redmond is not a starter anymore. So we're definitely, you're going to have Trey Hopkins. You can have Westerman in there. We're definitely, Alex Redmond is not part of the starting line. And that's the biggest gift of all, because he was the weakest link. I think he dragged that whole right side of the line down. And you watch this last season, how many times did we watch us trying to force it down the right side of the line? And you're like, you're asking them to do something they're not capable of doing, so you've got to bring in help. You've got,
Yeah.
that was frustrating to watch all year.
Yeah, I mean, I my thing is this: I love our players, not just because they play for us, but I like them as people. Yeah. And Alex Redmond, he was tendered, but then he took a shot at the friend of our show. He's been on our show, great guy, Joe Goodberry, insulting his football knowledge, and that was it for the Bengals. They're like, "You're out of here." They, and so they moved on, and they got John Miller. Yeah. And I'm happy they did. So thank you, Joe Goodberry, and thank you, Alex Redmond. Twitter. Yeah. So the Bengals, look, fans probably were hoping we save money for Darqueze Dennard. It looks like he's not going to be with us. He visited the Chiefs today, I think. And we are replacing him basically with a player who is kind of similar, but again, as John says, more fluid and explosive than Darqueze and Drake Kirkpatrick. And that is B.W. Webb from the Giants, who played for our defensive coordinator, Lou Anarumo.
Right.
And he gave up 10 penalties last year, which was just extraordinary for him. So it's interesting that Anarumo still wants him.
Right. Well, I think it's good. You want to bring in a player that can help the other players kind of transition into the new language. So remember, we haven't had a lot of change in this organization for a long time. So this is going to be, the fans have yelled for a change in coaches, and this is, unparalleled in the change that we've had in terms of, we have a very young and aggressive, but a very unproven staff. And this will help Lou because he's got somebody who already knows the language and he already knows what to expect. So I was surprised we didn't make a play for like Landon Collins or Olivier Vernon or somebody else that was part of that same system. So, but I understand the signing, and don't rule Darqueze Dennard out. He can still circle around. He's visiting the Chiefs, but there wasn't a whole lot of buzz around Dennard when he hit the streets last week. So,
well, just going by what his demands are, the fact that supposedly he wants to be paid like an outside corner, it doesn't seem like the Bengals would do that, to be honest with you.
Well, I don't think any team will, because he had a problem on staying on the field. Once again, availability is your most important ability, and he wasn't available the first 3 years. He had injury-riddled seasons. He really showed some stuff the last couple of years. He still, I don't think, played a whole full season for us.
Yeah, that's a good point. Good point. But the Bengals are not done. Right. They're interested in Danny Shelton. We know that,
right?
And he would help shore up that middle. We had some good production there last year right. From our young player. His name escapes me right now.
Which one? Billings? We had Billings.
Yes, Billings. I'm sorry. He was on our show. Yeah, he was on our show. And Billings, great guy. And he had a breakout season, but it would be nice to have more depth there. And, who knows? Who knows what they're going to do at quarterback? But Zach Taylor was seen kind of fawning over Kyler Murray. So who knows if they draft the quarterback, make Dalton the bridge. Ryan Tannehill was just traded. Maybe Dalton is traded, or maybe Dalton, maybe Driscoll is replaced with McCarron. AJ McCarron is available in free agency, and that is our quarterback duo for this year. And then next year we, get the younger player. We don't know. We don't know what could happen, but they're not done. The Bengals are not done, and they didn't get drastically better. But in their mind, the players that they re-signed were guys they brought in last year, who they liked and didn't have great years, but they think they're going to get better. Preston Brown, is like a leading tackler in the NFL. He had his first injury season,
Right.
He can tackle. The man can tackle. But a lot of fans are concerned about his coverage of tight ends and the fact that we haven't gotten better in that regard.
I want to throw something out there. First of all, I think we're still going to make a run at like a Brandon Marshall, who's still available out there in the linebacker. And I also think if we're smart. So it probably won't happen. But if we're smart, we would try to send a mid-round pick to the Jets for Deron Lee. He's a very athletic linebacker, and clearly, if they gave Mosley that kind of money, Lee's available. We just have to rattle him free. So if we could send a third or a fourth rounder, and we don't even have to send this year's pick. I think the Jets would take a pick next year. I think we need to try to get Deron Lee over there. But I still think there's some moves to be made in the next week and two. So I really think, and you're right, that's where the Bengals make hay. They go out and get value signings later on. So, and there are some big names still out there. Listen, you have Houston is still available. There was another linebacker. Obviously, we're not going to take Sue, but Sue's still out there. There's a lot of big name free agents that are still out there. Clay Matthews is still available.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. That would be, yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, well, I don't know how much how much Clay's asking, but I'm just saying there is veteran talent out there that we can shore up our linebackers with. And then obviously we have to look to the draft. If we can add a Devin White, I mean, that would be huge. Think about it. You trade a mid-round pick, you bring in Deron Lee, you sign Preston Brown, you've got Nick Vigil, and then you bring in, and we're going to get Carl Lawson back in, and then you throw in a Devin White into that mix, and all of a sudden our linebacking core is looking pretty stout. You're not asking Preston to be the only guy to make plays. So, we have to see how things play out. I just wish, it seems like every time the Bengals don't make a big splash in free agency, all the Bengal Nation turns into like Chicken Little and the sky is falling. And the sky's not falling. We have a lot of talent at the skill positions. We just need to just shore up our line and our linebackers, and then let's see what we have and give our coaches a chance.
Well, I mean, I agree. You talk about the skill positions. I'm very optimistic about, AJ Green, Joe Mixon, John Ross, of course, Tyler Boyd, who we have to re-sign. We have to keep that guy. We have to keep Tyler Boyd.
We're not spending money. The one thing is I better, when the season starts, Tyler Boyd better already be extended. We do not want him hitting the market. I don't want to have to use the franchise tag on him. We do not want him going to Pittsburgh because, obviously he played his college ball in Pittsburgh. He grew up in Pittsburgh. We want to extend Tyler Boyd now while he still has a year left. Give him his money now because now's where we have the advantage. He hasn't had a payday yet. Give him, a contract with 10 or 12 million or 15 million guaranteed and lock him up. He's shown he had his breakout year last year. He is well worth the contract to keep Boyd in the fold.
Yeah, to be honest with you, his second year was such a fluke. People forget his first year, he had 600, 700 yards or something. He had a solid first, for a second-round receiver. He was very solid.
Yeah.
He's a good receiver, has good chemistry with Dalton. And he's tough. He makes big plays. He makes clutch plays. Yeah. He's exactly the kind of guy you want to build a winning culture. Yeah, go ahead, please.
Exactly. Well, I was going to say, he broke every one of Larry Fitzgerald's records at Pittsburgh. So he just wiped Larry Fitzgerald out of all the records at Pitt. So, he's shown he can play.
Yeah. And so we lost some free agents, notable Tyler Kraft, who's a good tight end. He's a solid tight end. We wish him well. But I think Uzama, at the higher upside, we preferred Uzama, and we kept Uzama. So that's good. Yeah.
Uzama's much more athletic. Tyler Kraft, and you could check me on this one, I just see kind of another Jermaine Gresham. Yeah, he had sure hands. Yeah, he blocked pretty good. He was a decent all-around tight end, but you didn't see him with any kind of breakaway speed. You didn't see him, I just saw him as kind of just another Jermaine Gresham. He's a very replaceable guy in the draft. So I'm not worried about losing Tyler Kraft at all. We kept the guy with the much higher ceiling in CJ.
No, we did. I mean, really, Mark, what I'm getting from all of this, I really feel a lot better, to be honest with you. I hope our viewers and listeners, because this show is also on iTunes. Sorry if I spit when I speak. It's on iTunes. It's just going crazy. The last episode I checked the stats, had like 10 downloads, like the first day. It's just incredible. And so please, you can listen to the iTunes or you can watch YouTube. And our fans come here to kind of vent, to kind of laugh. And I really think you gave them some hope, and that's important. And we love our fans so much because they allow us to do what we do. They allow John to take these cruises. And Hoji, who even knows what Hoji is doing right now with his Patreon money? He's not here, obviously. But so our patrons are incredible, really. And we have 2 new ones just from the last show. I'm talking about Ashante Sanders, who's pledged $5 a month, and Tim Brashear, who's on here all the time, Brown Shoe, T2. And
I know Brown Shoe T2, yes.
Yeah.
I've exchanged comments in my Northerners and my LA Bengal fan videos with him. So
yeah, I mean, Brown Shoe is a big Bengal, a big Dalton fan, and he brings some good points up about Dalton not having a second receiver and all that before last year. And yeah, it's fair to give Dalton a chance under Zach Taylor. Like I said, I don't have a problem with Dalton. I like the idea of a Rosen, the guy with a really high upside, really great arm talent, great touch on his passes. Reminds me a little bit of Aaron Rodgers. That's why I'm saying get Rosen. He's so young, but Dalton is a nice guy. But yeah, please go ahead.
I absolutely agree with you on getting Rosen. If we can pry him away for like a 3rd round pick or something, we absolutely should. This is a guy who would be one of the top quarterbacks, if not the top quarterback in this year's draft. If Arizona wants to move on from him, I'd be more than happy to bring him in. And now you give Dalton a chance to win the job this year. And if not, Dalton can be a bridge to Rosen next year. And I think Dalton and Rosen are similar type quarterbacks in their mobility and things like that. Rosen's not as good at moving out of the pocket as Dalton is, but Dalton wasn't when he started, and he's become a much better passer rolling out. So that's something that you develop through time. But I'm all in favor of getting Josh Rosen on board if we can.
Yeah, I mean, Josh Rosen, to be honest with you, they're just different prospects. You know, I mean, Dalton, very limited prospect, but refined at what he is. Rosen, not refined, but the sky is the limit for him. He has as much on. You say a 3rd, I would be fine with the 2nd, and people are going to think I'm crazy. I'd be fine with giving up our 1st round pick because the guy's 22 years old. If, like you said, if he's going in this draft, he would be higher. We would have to trade up to get him, to be honest with you.
Well, but I want to say, I don't want to give up our 1st round pick. We have got to nail down either one of the top tackles, or we've got to get Devin White, a linebacker. That's what our 1st pick needs to go to.
But Mark, I'm saying you hit on the quarterback, and you were talking about the Browns are a little bit too optimistic. Let's see what happens. But the reason is when you hit that franchise quarterback, everything else kind of falls in place.
Yes.
I mean, look at franchises like the Saints. You remember how bad the Saints were for years and years and years and years and years, and they got Drew Brees and everything. It just changes the dynamic, the fortunes of a franchise when you hit on that quarterback. And that's why I say that Rosen, you get a nice tackle, it's great. You get a quarterback who can move in the pocket. That can alleviate a lot of pressure. We've seen the greatest quarterbacks in this league have a lot of success with really bad offensive lines. I'm talking about, Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers. We've seen these guys with a lot of success, even with bad lines. So, tackled great, but we got to find a franchise quarterback. I don't think there's anyone in this draft who is as complete of a quarterback as Rosen. Kyler Murray obviously has a really big upside, but he's not. He has a much lower floor.
Well, I want to put the Kyler Murray, and I want to tell everybody we don't want Kyler Murray, and I'm going to tell you why. This is a guy who can always jump ship and leave for baseball. And that's it. Being the team we are, if he suffers any type of adversity, you just don't know if he's going to stick around. We don't know if he doesn't get his first injury and he starts thinking about, wow, if I go back and continue to play football, I'm going to lose 15 years of baseball and he doesn't leave. It's too risky. With the needs we have, Kyler Murray is not the move for us. If Arizona wants to take him and cut loose of Josh Rosen, but I'm game. But I don't want Kyler Murray. I just don't.
Yeah, I mean, I'm torn. I mean, I'm if they draft him, it'd be interesting. It's kind of like John Ross. I was against the John Ross drafting, but then it was exciting. But I just didn't think it would work because we're bad with injury-prone players, and and Dalton already had problems throwing deep to Green. So imagine Ross. I'm sorry to Tim. I know that is offensive. I apologize, Tim. But that's the way I feel. Okay, so I want to thank the rest of our patrons. They're incredible.
Go ahead.
Andrew Sealer is pledging $10 a month. He's been a long-time supporter, and it is his birthday actually today. So happy birthday,
happy birthday,
Andrew. Yes, thank you. And with the Patreon money, we will celebrate your birthday in the most noble and dignified way possible. We will, eat something very sweet and tasty for your birthday. Just right there. And Brian Taylor, also $1 a month. John Harden, he's been giving the most money, and he's still there now, giving $5 a month. Michael Ford, $1 a month, and Tanner Guerin, $3 a month. We have so many beautiful patrons. Really, it's just great. We love all of them. And me and Mark, we were in this because of our dedication to the team, and our distance from the team really drove us to find forums and avenues to discuss this and share. And I think you see the passion that we have for this team, and the optimism, really, the hope that we have for this team as well. I really want to thank you, Mark, for being on the show. It's incredible having you today.
Oh, it's my pleasure. We've got to do this more often. And like I said, we definitely have to get together and watch a couple games. Maybe we'll watch opening day. I don't know if you've ever hooked up with the Bengals West crowd over in Pasadena or Eagle Rock, but we have to meet up there. And the Bengals West crowd, I'd love to meet you.
Yeah, for sure. I love to meet them. But yeah, so for Mark and sorry, with John on his cruise and Hoji, doing probably spending something on some sort of mystical kind of journey or something. We miss them, but we will see them next time. Thank you, Mark. Thank you for watching. We will see you next time. So long, Sviti. Peace.
Goodbye.